They have only given up one point on Assault.
Yeah, they're
in saying that,
on it
they also, this is the first time they're playing Horizon Lunar Colony this season of Australian Contenders. So something new, something a bit different for the City Drop Bears. In saying that, Assault does seem to be a bit of their bread and butter here.
And that does give, you know, City Drop Bears a little bit of an advantage as well. It means Legacy Esports kind of scouted them on Horizon, so they're not going to be exactly sure what they're expecting. We see City Drop Bears just poking to get the information, setting up the dive, but they can't get quite up there. Shoyo makes it, but he's going to lose his mech immediately. Meanwhile, Chronodota doesn't actually make it all the way up. He's going straight to the point.
Yeah, and Shoyo's still in pilot mode. So Legacy running the bunker composition here on the high ground, pretty standard as the City Drop Bears with Goats just wanted to try and get onto the point and force them to come down. 1-for-1 trades. CKM, though, falling now gives it a slight advantage to Legacy Esports.
Yeah, we do see them getting some ticks though, well, at least one, and at the moment they're just not willing to drop down very quickly. Legacy holding onto the high ground perhaps a little too long there to try and eke out the advantages you can get from that. Now Chronodota has is showing his supremacy of that. There we go, 2 ticks coming, and it doesn't look like they're going to get back there in time to get a third. I felt like Legacy, once they had that advantage, should have really popped down and just dealt with the rest of Sydney Drop Bears. Instead, once again, they let an opportunity slip.
Junkrat 1v1 with a Lucio. It's fair to say it's kind of difficult for the Junkrat to take on the Lucio moving around, trying to hit him with those grenades.
Well, I don't know. At this level, you should have.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
should be having the numbers running in front of you, making those calculations.
A pretty easy 1v1 win there for Bertlog, which you don't see too often. Sleep Easy will stand the Junkrat for now close to the Riptide, which is actually pretty pivotal in this fight to try and stop the momentum of the City Drop Bears. We do hear fire in the hole, and we're going to see the Riptide make its way out, taking a bit of damage. 10 health. Can he get anything here? No, exploded mid-air.
I'm pretty sure he could have picked up that health.
Not the time that he wanted to get exploded there onto the Riptide. He wanted to explode it himself. Meaning with the self-destructor on the point. Now the sound barrier has already been popped by the City Drop Bears, but a Kraken still holds this Transcendence. Great ability for everyone to get around. That pillar saves them all, and the self-destruct from Shoyo will actually get Mini here. This is a clean push from the City Drop Bears. You see it a lot on Assault maps, Gino, where that snowball of the momentum from the attacking team from first point onto second point. We're seeing that right now with the City Drop Bears. No ult at all for Legacy.
No, they haven't had the chance to build up any, really, apart from the ones they got on the first point. But the Riptide, as we saw, came to no use, and now it's just the respawn heroes. A nice little pile driver there will keep him alive with the adaptive shields for a second. And Thunder Kitty, even with that projected barrier on top of him, can't do anything. A Kraken trances to finish out the point, and the Sydney Drop Bears...
God.
Woo!
Addy with the Graviton Surge at the end sort of just locks them all. The point that he steps off it, it didn't matter in the end. Look, they were coming back, you know, sort of just one at a time, and it's that classic, very classic, you know, just throw their bodies and try and make sure the time bank comes down. 5 minutes and 30 seconds, quick 2-0, and I sort of now track back to the comment I mentioned earlier, Genome, where the Sydney Drop Bears have only given up 1 point on Assault this season.
We have seen them full hold Ath on Hanamura. We have seen them full hold blank on Hanamura. And, well, I really think Legacy have got their work cut out for them here. At least on Hollywood, they had that hope in their mind. They had, you know, the fact that they got the push first and managed to get the time bank. When you're coming up second against a team like the Drop Bears and you're staring at a number as large as 5 minutes 24 seconds.
It's daunting as well, actually, psychologically for the attacking team.
So intimidating.
Yeah, it really is, especially in matchmaking, and you're just sitting there like, oh, well, I guess this is a loss, and you kind of give a lot of players give up.
It's not matchmaking, ZeNox. This is a highly competitive game, and you need a mental fortitude of many magnitudes higher than you come across in your regular games on the ladder to deal with this kind of nuisance. So,
Goats on defense for the Drop Bears, which I honestly like. I think Bunker's got its weaknesses.
It does. I mean, we saw just there, if you don't rotate quickly enough, you can get outmaneuvered by something like Goats, especially with the Winston.
Ooh.
Chronodota was doing a good job there. Addy coming out here on the Wrecking Ball, really.
Anna and Genji as well, so looking to try and obviously get that Nano Blade combination, I assume. I'll drive it from Addy. They're just really going to try and take Goats head on at the moment. That's really what they want to do. Swift Strike from Sleep Easy puts him into the back line on against Goats. It's not really where you want to be. So it is going to be a good start here for the Sydney Drop Bears, which means they can build up their ult economy, which I kind of feel like with the compositions that are playing each other right now, Sydney Drop Bears are going to have the better ult economy. It's all down to that Nano Blade.
That's going to be a huge factor.
That's
Addy actually, no, look,
yeah,
they're just sweeping. Yeah. They're switching clean off that right now. They actually had a chance there once they took down, I think it was Chrono Dodo who went down, and then Sydney just came forward and got so many staggers that it bought the time for him to get back. So now they are going to jump straight in again. They're so good at these early engages. You see them just playing around those two doorways. As soon as someone goes low, there's a chance for them to find cover.
Of course, Sleep Easy and Cinderella into the front line with their shields, and then Addy slips in as well with a projected particle barrier. Critical Hull, Special Kid, and Thunder Kid. He's got it left behind there. Legacy Esports a little bit split with their push, and Sleep Easy just going to float off into space. Now, before I throw it back over to you, I just want to say, you're coming out with a composition of the Genji, the Ana, the Wrecking Ball, and you get off after one fight. You should give it until you can at least build some ults up and go for that Dragon Blade?
Look, perhaps they were thinking they were coming up against a bunker composition where it's quite static, and then they can just dive into that and do a whole lot of damage. But it's not to be. They're going to have to deal with the dive, and they think that Goats is, especially with the Reinhardt, is the way they can manage that.
The self-destruct only going to be picking up Sleep Easy, but of course that now gives the numerical advantage to the City Drop Bears once again, and of course from what we overcommit too many ultimates. They've only used the one so far in this fight, and with both Cinderella and Sleep Easy going down, it's a huge advantage for the Sydney Drop Bears to continue that snowball, and that's what they do. They know once they've got 1 or 2 picks, they don't need ultimates anymore to get the next 3 or 4. They can get them by just sheer power, sheer overwhelming of the opposition.
Yeah, they're not wasteful, and they're also just so confident in their ability that they don't think, oh maybe we better be safe and throw out a Transcendence or the Rally or a Sound Barrier here. No, they've got all 3 of those now for the next fight. That said, Legacy have built up a couple of their own in their failed forays towards this first point, but with 1 minute and 23 seconds left, ZeNox time is running out. If they can hold them here, this will be the series for Sydney.
And it's going to be the Graviton Surge from Addy along with the Sound Barrier. Legacy pretty much allowing the City Drop Bears to once again drop in from above and give them that initial advantage, but they turn it around on them on this time. But in saying that, it's still going to be the first 2 deaths for Legacy Esports. Now, Special Kid as well. Now, Cinderella will be coming back with the Earthshatter, but Legacy committed ultimates, Geno, and they were basically trying to bait City Drop Bears. They once again drop down on them, but they throw out the Graviton Surge and try and surprise them. Didn't quite work out, but you've got to admire the tactic of trying that. But they cannot allow Sydney to once again just drop from above.
Yeah, and the thing is, they've got this Earthshatter here. That's usually what would be your playmaker going into this. But how can they use it? Sydney Drop Bears have got the high ground. It's so hard for them to do anything about this. They do have the Trance.
Special Kid's going to use the Transcendence, as you mentioned,
the boot doesn't work.
Not going to pick anything up with the self-destruct, though. 25 seconds. Couple of ults committed. Really, for both teams there, 2 of them.
And now they're on low ground, so if they can get there quickly, they can use that Earthshatter. The failed boot by Bertlog actually saving them time and providing a useful disengage for them as they're going in, but Mini's very low in that mech.
CCAM's going to be careful here on the point. Will fall back. This does now allow Legacy Esports to get onto the point. They're at the back side of it. 5 seconds. Cinderella is going to use that Earthshatter. Does pick up 2, but the Sound Barrier immediately from Bertlog. Wasn't able to save CKM, but it was able to save Huss. Now the Graviton Surge is going to come out from Addy, but they don't have the self-destruct. Now they throw it out for Mini. The timing of that just didn't quite sync up well enough with the Graviton Surge to get that combination to be effective enough. Well, Thunder Kitty goes down just before he could even use that Sound Barrier, and because of that, I think this fight is over. Graviton Surge from Huss. They've got the self-destruct now with Shoyo as well to just clear this sort of point. Cinderella charges into the wall. It's almost like banging your head against the wall. When you're going up against the Sydney Drop Bears, the overtime bar, it's shrinking very rapidly. That's going to be a 3-0 now as they full hold on Horizon Lunar Colony.
Some real opportunities missed there. I mean, we had ultimates come out from Legacy, and they just couldn't capitalize on them. As soon as they scattered Sydney Drop Bears, I mean, there was one point there where I think it was the self-destruct went down. A Kraken used his trance to stay on the point and be that anchor to try and not let them even have a tick. The rest of Sydney had to split to every single point to try and avoid that self-destruct. At that time, that is exactly when Legacy needs to go in and pick those targets off one by one. Instead, they get no kills at that point, and that allows time, for Sydney Drop Bears to come back, build up the grab, and they don't waste their chances. They eliminate the targets when they see that bullseye in front of them.
Did we give without being rude, but did we give Legacy Esports maybe a bit too much credit coming into Assault? It's not as if they've had really a huge amount of performances on Assault, and obviously from what we've seen from the Sydney Dropbears on Hanamura, who have been very dominant, that can easily translate over to Horizon and Colony, as we've just seen. So,
yeah, they do play out a little bit differently. I think our, saying that they have the best chance of any, it's still not a huge chance. Like,
no.
Dropbears are at the top for a reason. So I think it was fair to say, they could have a crack at it, but unfortunately that was not Legacy's best performance.
Also,
today.
unfortunately for Legacy, that's basically the Series 1 now for the Sydney Dropbears 3-0. They do still have the opportunity, though, to be the first team to take a map. That's still available for them if they can make it 3-1 going into our final map. But I'm not going to lie, it's going to look pretty difficult to do so. They had the biggest opportunity over on Hollywood.
It's going to be very tough. I'm expecting them to bring out Route 66. They've had a couple of cracks at that already. Haven't been too successful on that. And with Dropbears, they've played that every single time, and they've had 2 full holds on that as well. Yeah. So, like Assault, it could be a pretty rough run here for Legacy, and they are going to choose that Route 66, so I hope they've got something special for us. We've been seeing a lot of really close holds from teams in recent times. They want to, just really stick it to you, not let you get out of spawn. And I think if that's what Dropbears can do here, Legacy are going to have a hard time replicating that on the defense. Yeah,
I think this could be difficult. We saw a full hold on Route 66 last week, and I think we might see that here as well. Unfortunately, the Legacy Esports City Dropbears have just had too much for them. Their ult economy's been a lot better. They don't waste fights and ults, and they know if they've lost the fight to give it up. Well, they don't force anything. They're so flawless and clean with everything that they do. Hollywood was a little bit shaky on Hollywood for City Dropbears. They still just came out on top.
Yeah, they looked absolutely flawless on pretty much both sides of that, the attack and defense. That was a masterclass from the Dropbears there. We are going to see them on the attack here, so the map potentially could be a little bit longer as a result of that. And Cindy, he's up the top there, not actually going for the Winston. We do see a lot of teams opt to use that dive there. Huss is actually going to get behind them nice and quickly, use that translocator to get set up here, and probably look for the hack on you'd imagine one of the tanks here, but potentially Special Kid just gonna pump out some damage.
It's interesting that Special Kid just basically forced down with the rest of them, and it's gonna take him a bit of time to get back up. So that's one thing that's sort of been done by Huss there, to just take away the high ground from the Zenyatta, forces him down in sort of the mosh pit with the rest of Legacy Esports. Thunder Kitty will be taken down as CKM picks up the D-Mac onto Mini. So pretty standard slow push at the moment from Sydney Dropbears, as they're just picking up a couple of picks. And once you do that here on Route 66, of course, with the defensive team holding this sort of high push, and they do get picked off, basically it's all done. It will come around Big Earls. There'll be one more fight to try and stop the payload on this first point.
that's the silver lining on that play, is that getting the cart stopped nice and early means you will have time to get back in. However, we do see CKM and Bertlog set up nicely here. Chrono Dota as well, ready for that first dive. Once they get the information on where they are, they're going to come out from behind the Panorama Diner sign, but they're going to walk straight into the barrage of CKM.
Yeah, he's going to pick up the double kill onto Mini and Cinderella. He's actually going to pick up 4 kills in that fight. CKM on the fire. Certainly is just raining from above. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and this is going to be pretty easy first point for Sydney Dropbears. No surprises, though. They've still got the EMP from Huss as well. He's been holding that for a little while now.
Yeah, he was probably going to pop that if the start of the fight didn't go so well. Perhaps if CKM got picked off early. Wow, they've managed to actually get back in here for a third contest, a third fight here on the point, which is surprising. And a well-timed Transcendence there from Special Kid will buy them a little bit of time.
Yeah, Chrono Dota, though, as soon as they came back, he did pop the Primal Rage. Kind of got the sense of feeling that Legacy Esports weren't going to lay down that easily. They were going to put up a fight. They did throw out a couple of ults, but Sydney Dropbears have been able to respond. Huss ending up using the EMP. I wonder if he might switch off the Sombra going into Streets phase, but somehow Legacy Esports held this.
Wow, that's
and Huss is now switched over, by the way.
Especially considering Cinderella, he was asleep. He was on the ground there. They really looks like they were going to have no protection walking into that, but they do somehow push them back. Addy providing enough pressure onto CKM to push him back, and he's going to be looking to keep that up, especially with CKM wanting to get nice and close with that barrage on hand.
Well, the Deadeye is huge here as well for Addy to just sort of zone CKM away from a high ground position that's above his team. He can use it right now, but it's going to be very slow. Now he can get the double kill onto both CKM and Bertlog, so make it 3 here with Shoyo most likely going down, even with the Kraken getting that pick on Addy. This is another fight win for Legacy Esports, and Sydney Drop Bears all of a sudden, they got 55 seconds. And look at their ult economy. It is in tatters.
Yeah, they've got nothing. They used quite a few there. You see the
just switched.
Nano Boost came out on the Pharaoh, right? Because they were trying to do so much damage with that barrage. It got no kills. And Nano boosted barrage with a bubble on top of it and still nothing.
I don't like that play as well, to be honest. The Nano Boost on the barrage, because when you're using that rocket barrage, you leave yourself so open, even with the barrier, as you mentioned, as simple as a Deadeye.
Still went down. Still went down.
23 seconds. This could very well be the final fight. This also could very well be the first map the Sydney Drop Bears could possibly drop this season of Australian Contenders, but you never count them out, Genome. It's a lesson we've learned. 82% for the self-destruct for Shoyo. This is going to be their opportunity. Sleepy's he's going to be picked. Now, Legacy, they do still have the Earth Shadow available. Cinderella, who is low. Special Kid with a very special Transcendence now. They will also have Thunder Kitty's Sound Barrier to pop immediately after that Transcendence fades away. There's the Sound Barrier, though, coming out from Thunder Kitty. Rocket Barrage from CKM, not really all that perfective as the Earth Shatter from Cinderella. I don't think he got anyone, maybe Shoyo, but even then it wasn't enough onto the big mech, as Addy is going to be taken down a couple of percent before he could even get off that Graviton Surge through sheer will. Right now, it is going to be the Sydney Drop Bears overwhelming Legacy until Mini takes down Huss and the mech of Shoyo. It's back and forth, Gino.
They have to stay on the card here. Chrono Dota with the Nano Boost is doing a lot of damage behind, and they're going to ignore him because it's so hard to get that big target down with all that damage reduction. Despite Legacy getting a good look in at the end of that fight, they are finally going to get the short end of the stick here as Sydney Drop Bears push through on to the second point. But my, what a great first point from Legacy.
This is almost reminiscent of what we saw in Hollywood.
A little bit, you know, Sydney Drop Bears really taking their time to work their way through the map. This time, I think Legacy, I honestly think they could have held that out there if they'd have been a little more aggressive at the start of that fight. Thunder Kitty had his Sound Barrier to start up with, and you saw them give up so much ground when usually, I mean, we see a lot of teams in this meta, they throw the Sound Barrier out early, and then they get right up into the opponent's faces. I think that was the ticket.
Well, just under 2 minutes, still got pretty much the entirety of the street space to get through for the Sydney Drop Bears. So they're going to be basically playing on thin air for the rest of this round as the Sound Barrier from Thunder Kitty thrown out early. That's kind of what Legacy needed to do first time around. Now the Earth Shadow as well, as they're syncing up their ultimates here at the beginning of the streets phase. They do actually hold on. They've got to hold on to these ults. Rally used from Sleep Easy. Okay, not the worst ult to maybe use at the end. Still could have probably saved it until the fight was entirely won, because there might be some of that armor chipped away.
Yeah, you don't get maximum value out of it if you're using it, you know, out of battle or towards the end of a fight, but it is a little bit of a safety measure, and still, as you say, we do see armor built up on most of the members of Legacy Esports now going into the next fight. Huss went down very early in that one, so he had the grab and they didn't have the opportunity to use that. A very early one from Addy, nice spot.
And the self-destruct thrown, but was that self-destruct thrown below? I don't think it got, oh no, sorry, there it is. I just didn't get thrown at all. For some reason I thought it was. Shoyo is going to get his own self-destruct onto Thunder Kitty. 1-for-1 trade though with a Fire Strike from Cinderella. But again, it's just Legacy losing players by characters like CKM on a Brigida. Like, they're just getting easy picks.
Look at this, Huss is just getting so much free damage right now. They're completely ignoring him, and a charged up Zaire, you cannot do that. Trying to go for the supports while they're healing each other up and just taking so much damage from Huss is not the way that you win one of these fights.
And the disappointing thing for there was, it was Legacy who started that fight. Self-destruct, Graviton Surge.
It was a very, a good combo. You know, one of the things I really admiring about Sydney Drop Bears in these fights is their ability to chase down the staggers. That said, because they struggled so much on the first point, we hear that music ramping up towards the end. They're going to have to try and take this point in overtime. But Addy, we can come in here with this grab. Did that get eaten?
Oh my goodness, Sleep Easy going down though, regardless. The Kraken with the Transcendence may have been eaten. Huge Earth Shatter from a Cinderella, but it only gets one. Charges through. Now Chrono Dota has his own Earth Shatter as well. It will land onto me. The Particle Barrier onto Addy. Keep kept him up and standing for now. Sleep Easy's going to be coming back, but will be coming back too little, too late. Legacy Esports, again, just not clean and efficient. And the way that the Sydney Drop Bears are, and it will be the Sydney Drop Bears getting this second checkpoint, moving into the final third stage here on Route 66. They will have a minute and a half. And for as longer this goes on, the more and more you sense that Legacy Esports are running out of the ability to take this map. That, again, it's just slipping through their fingers.
Well, I mean, Shoyo making game-changing plays like that, eating the grab up is going to do that, ZeNox. Now they move on to the third point, and Huss needs to try and avoid the same fate there. Maybe can throw it once Minnie gets out of her mech. You can see she does have the self-destruct ready.
It was a very early rally from Sleep Easy for Legacies. The Graviton Surge and the self-destruct from Sydney Drop Bears. Not the best combination from Shoyo and Huss that time around. It does still pick up 2 kills inadvertently, but it didn't really do a whole lot from the actual grab. I don't even think picked anyone up originally. 40 seconds still on the time, and Legacy continue to just bleed players consistently. Now, they will have, though, the Graviton Surge and self-destruct here. Final fight, possibly.
They do. It's a good combo to have there, and Addy has managed to hold on to that armor. That could be quite important in allowing him to get into a good position and make use of this last grab. That said, Kraken's got the trance to cancel it out.
They've got this economy.
If he times this well, maybe if they can pressure that Zenyatta out first, that could be a way to win.
Here we go, Graviton Surge, last-ditch effort for Legacy Esports to deny Sydney Drop Bears getting all 3 points here on Route 66. It will be the D-Mech onto Shoyo. Bertlock throws out the sound barrier. Sydney obviously not going to give up on this fight, not give up on this third point. The rally from Sleep Easy now as the special kit Transcendence has also come out. That means that Legacy Esports no longer have any ultimates left in this fight, and Huss is now 2% away from the grab. He's looking for it. He's got 100 energy. He could basically just solo anyone inside of the grab himself. Oh, special cleared. Melted. Absolutely melted from Huss. He's locked, loaded, and ready to go. The Graviton Surge is going to come out now from Huss. Doesn't quite connect onto Addy, but he takes him down. Another punch to the face with an all from a Kraken, and it's Sydney Drop Bears. It's always Sydney Drop Bears. 3 points. How do they do it? How do they keep getting away with this? You're just shaking your head.
It's sad to see sometimes, I mean, from Legacy's point of view, that, they do keep getting away with it, right? That's what it feels like. Yeah. It feels like they had the chances again and again.
On all 3 points.
I mean, that first point was fantastic. That third
fight, yeah,
where they managed to come out. I mean, I was really impressed with them there, but I don't think they backed themselves enough in the fight after that. That's the one where they needed to really just turn it up. Put the flame to the feet of Sydney Drop Bears and say, look, we can do this, but unfortunately they hesitate a little bit. And in a game like Overwatch, ZeNox, when you hesitate, you die.
That fight you're talking about, after obviously they came back, they should have had so much momentum. They should have had so much belief in themselves, because they had taken a fight that not every team might have taken. A lot of teams may have just been like, all right, they're going to get it. Let's set up for Streets phase. They came back last second, and they won the fight. There was only like 30 seconds to a minute left. There was only basically one more fight after that. And they had the ultimates to win that fight. They threw it away, unfortunately. The same could be said then for Streets phase. And then the same could be said as well for the final phase, where, once again, Legacy had the opportunity to stop them before they could get all 3 points. In the end, though, the City Drop Bears, they get all 3. And you've got to give them credit for that too, though. They may be the best team. They may be flawed. It's because of how good they are. It's their ability to not give in, to not concede.
They certainly haven't looked flawed, and here we go. They're actually going to get spotted out. It's the Harmony Orb on the top of CKM that gives it away as Legacy try and break out of this close hold by Sydney Drop Bears.
It worked. They get the initial kill onto Chrono Dodo, who was separated from the rest of the Sydney Drop Bears. But we see this a lot, Chino. Early push, high up, before the payload is even moving.
Yeah, they want to just get some time off the cart early, and CKM is really doing work with that Harmony Orb on his head. It's allowing him so much survivability, and a couple of kills aren't really going to matter. They're so close to the start of the map here that they will have them all back by the start of the next fight. But as we saw on the Sydney Drop Bears attack, this does give Legacy Sydney Drop Bears the opportunity to have one, maybe even 2 more fights.
Yeah, I think they'll probably have a similar scenario here with 3 fights in total. If Sydney Drop Bears don't win this next one, they may still have enough time, especially when the payload's just at the front of Big Earls rather than around the corner. There may be time. Sydney with a shatter, but Chrono Dodo was holding that shield perfectly as he really trying to just fight back himself here. Doesn't have the Earth Shatter just yet. It is going to be the Transcendence from a Kraken after Special Kid through his own Transcendence out here as well. Addy close to the Graviton Surge for Legacy Esports hero on attack. As Mini is going to be able to get that knockdown onto a Kraken with the self-destruct to clean up the City Drop Bears, who held on to a couple of their ultimates. Can they get back in time for a third fight though?
Yeah, it looks like there will Chronodoters up the front. That's one of the benefits of having your main tank go down so early in these GOATS composition fights, is that you can get back to contest. Addy is going to spot them out, though. He knows they're coming from the top. They've got the positioning, and as you say, he can grab early here if he wants to. Not
going to. He will allow them to get onto this payload, which will force a third fight here onto the beginning stage of Route 66 for the attack of Legacy Esports. 1-for-1 trade. Both Reinhardt's going down as well. Neither of them did have an Earth Shatter in this fight. Huss is going to fall though, and he was pretty close to a Graviton Surge. Shoyo right into the face of Special Kid. They cannot allow him to get another Transcendence, which he's basically already built back up. It's in his control. But Shoyo actually with the self-destruct picks up both Thunder Kitty and Special Kid, who have their ultimates available. They couldn't get them off because they got exploded, and that's meaning Sydney Droppers are going to win this fight. We're basically it's deja vu from what we saw from the defense of Legacy.
We're going here again, but it is Addy, I think, with the hesitation once again, and sometimes in Overwatch it's better safe than sorry. He had that grab at the start of the fight. Yeah. Legacy, they kept getting the picks. It looked like they were going to get the upper hand. Addy's thinking, oh, maybe I can just hold on to this Graviton Surge and give us the advantage in the next fight. Bad luck, son. There might not be a next fight on the second point because you're failing to get through this first one a little too late with that grab.
Well, he still at least has the Graviton Surge. It is going to come out. The Earth Shatter as well. We'll get the knock onto Sleep Easy. Cinderella charges through. Unfortunately for Legacy Esports, they will be able to get this first checkpoint, so they lose a bit of time. They get there in the end, but it's a matter of the fact that they did use their 3 ultimates here. City Drop Bears. Well, to be fair, Legacy's still got 2 available with the Earth Shatter and the self-destruct, so even going into this street phase, they're not bad off. They're not too bad off here. 3 minutes and 14 seconds.
No, certainly no worse off than the Drop Bears were at this time. And Addy, well, I guess he gets a bit of a reprieve there after copping a basting from us there. So he really did make the difference in that fight with a Graviton Surge. They get a nice forward position here, actually. Just try to pen the Sydney Drop Bears in. They don't want to give them too much space. Meanwhile, who's on the card? Perhaps Mini.
Well, this is interesting because when Sydney Drop Bears were attacking, they got caught on that second, on the first door, the first checkpoint. They got sent back to spawn. Now that didn't happen for Legacy, they're able to have that aggressive position and move further up. This allows the payload to move a little bit earlier. The Chronodoter with a fire strike right through the face of Thunder Kitty. Special Kid, well, talking about right in the face of Bertlog as Mini picks up the 2.5. Self-destruct, the BMAC with the Shoyo falls down. Basically, team kill.
So City Drop Bears, they come in there with the speed boost. It's such a threatening ability in this meta, and it's Bertlog allowing them to get in there and get that first kill, but they can't do anything further than that. Legacy turn it around with nice ability usage there, and they are going to use the rally as well just to try and safeguard against Sydney Drop Bears coming in here with this sound barrier.
Addy opens it up with the Graviton Surge, doesn't make the same mistake as last time, but it does lose Mini. Unfortunately, this is going to mean the Transcendence from Special Kid is going to be required here. They're going to get their second checkpoint. You don't want to lose this fight, such a long walk back, and it's actually pretty difficult to then come back as the attacking team. It can be done, obviously, but we get 100 energy for Haas now. The Graviton Surge, they will get Special Kid immediately. He's doing so much damage. He even just melts through Cinderella like a knife through butter. And it is going to be Sydney Drop Bears, you suspect here, Gino, going to hold Legacy for now. There's still 1 minute and 20 seconds though.
Cinderella just not with the game awareness there, the spatial awareness. We see Huss come around from behind, build up that Graviton Surge, and Cinderella thinks, okay, well maybe I can get the Shatter out and that'll stop the damage coming in. Not so. The fully charged Zaya is behind you, and it doesn't matter if the rest of the team's on the ground. Huss is going to be able to come in through the back there and get 2 or 3 kills. That's how quickly Zaya can deal with your team. 1 minute left on the clock. Legacy going to come in again with another couple of ultimates. We'll see what they do this time.
Yeah, 50 seconds left. Sleep Easy goes down. That's been a noticeable trend throughout this series as Sleep Easy's been sort of the target for Sydney Drop Bears to take out. Get rid of that Brigida, and that really just helps out the brawl in favor of Sydney Drop Bears. Transcendence available for a Kraken here. They also have got the sound barrier. So they got the support ultimates available. As long as they don't stack them at the exact same time, they can really draw out the fight with those support ultimates. But Legacy have got 4 ultimates here. I think you lose this fight, you come back, 20 seconds, one more push for Legacy. They throw all of their ultimates up.
Completely
from Chronodota.
That's the second one in a row from Chronodota that has gone absolutely nowhere.
Would that come back to bite them?
Addy there with the fadeaway shot, I guess you'd call it, getting the kill onto Bertlog. However, he will be back in time as they retreat towards the spawn with that sound barrier. No worries, and Huss does have the grab to keep them off the cart.
Can they get onto the cart? They will just get on. I mean, as mentioned, the Graviton Surge is available. Needs to make sure Mini's not going to eat it. It's not. It's going to be both. Graviton Surges onto the payload at the moment. The self-destruct was thrown out for Mini, unable to pick up any kills. Thunder Kitty with the sound barrier as well thrown out. Now, Bertlog's going to respond with the sound barrier of his own, which does mean the City Drop Bears have got the advantage right now. Cinderella was on his Earth Shatter. That was the opportunity because we saw Chronodota use his before. At 95% though, Chronodota goes down. So does Special Kid, so does Cinderella until Addy picks up the doubles. 1-for-1 trades at the moment. A pretty even fight between Legacy Esports and Sydney Drop Bears at the moment, but only a Kraken and Bertlog remain. But a Kraken picks up the headshot on to sleep easy. Bertlog goes down. Legacy are moving forward to this second checkpoint.
Mini getting distracted at the back there by a Kraken, luckily winning the fight, and they are going to push it through before anyone from Sydney Drop Bears has the opportunity to get through. Once again, we have a point capped in overtime. Seems to be the theme of the day between these two teams.
I feel like I'm watching the Sydney Drop Bears attack again.
Well, if that happens, then Legacy are going to get to the end in overtime. That's what we heard ZeNox predict just there. Now, Legacy are going to come in with the Graviton Surge this time. We see Sydney Drop Bears being a little sneaky up the top there. Can they come through and use this Earth Shatter?
Now, this should be an easy fight win, although there is going to be the Graviton Surge from Addy. In fact, Legacy, never mind, not an easy fight win if Legacy are more than happy to just fight back themselves and throw out the ultimates here to try and counter that push from Sydney Drop Bears. But I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that because it was Drop Bears who got the jump on them. They used their ultimates. Legacy, just hold your ults there. The payload's barely moved. You don't have to run that far to get back. And in the end, now they've used their ults.
Especially with 40 seconds left to go, ZeNox. It's not like they can play the long game here. They only have 1 or 2 more chances. Sydney Drop Bears there, sacrificing Huss into that Graviton Surge to win the war. Now Legacy once again will have to deal with this high ground position, which allows Huss to get so much more damage in, and Shoyo up the top as well.
And it can also then throw down that Graviton Surge freely, which he will be able to do so pretty much now if he wants to. Huss though just sitting behind Chronodota. And this is going to be basically the final fight. 7 seconds. Was that eaten? I believe it was. Nicely done from Mini to eat the grab from Huss. Sound barrier from Bertlog. Unfortunately, though, even with that eaten grab, Legacy aren't really able to follow it up onto it. The self-destruct from Shoyo taking out Sleep Easy. Again, picked off so early. And Legacy then always just down a member or two. And that's going to be the Sydney Drop Bears taking it out 4-0 on Road 66.
I really love how they played the clock there. As soon as overtime came down, they knew that Legacy Esports have to stick on the cart, and they used that pressure to their advantage, using the speed boost, using the sound barrier to push forward and make it so that Legacy have to run through all of the whole Sydney Drop Bears team to try and get there, and that's not something anybody wants to do.
Well, in the end, that was a series that I don't think 4-0, if you look at it on paper, 4-0 doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't, Gino. There were some close games, Route 66, and of course Hollywood were the standout close games. And that's where I just think a full 4-0 doesn't really do justice in the end for Legacy Esports. It's almost unfortunate. You almost feel a little bit upset for them because they had opportunities to take a map off the best team in the region who's not dropped the map at all. They were so close, yet so far.
They didn't get any maps in the end, and I mean, look, you can say that it's not reflective of the series. It was a little bit closer than that, but I think you've also got to pay homage to the fact that Sydney Drop Bears show up when it counts. Every time there was an overtime, every time we went into that second attack, Sydney Drop Bears had the good ZeNox.
Yeah, they certainly did.
Deny them that.
They didn't panic. They, under sort of pressure situations where there were plenty of fights for the Sydney Drop Bears where they had to win that specific fight. Otherwise, the payload was going to stop super early.
There was so much venom in that shot. You see that pause before Special Kid pulled the button? Like it was before he pulled the trigger there. It was just like, look at me, look into my eyes as I destroy you.
Unfortunately, in the end, it is not enough from Legacy Esports, and just too good from the Sydney Drop Bears as they take it out cleanly 4-0. And Does it really change anything, I guess, through what we thought about these two teams? I personally just feel like we're still at square one. City Drop Bears are at the top. Legacy still just middle of the road. Maybe they take some confidence, though, with some of their performances here in Route 66, especially on Hollywood, where they've struggled. That was a great performance on Hollywood.
Look, honestly, I think that puts Legacy up in my estimation. I mean, they've got Mind Freak left to play. And that was always probably going to be a close match between those two. They've both had some inspiring performances versus some of the better teams in this group. And off the back of what Legacy has done here today, I think they're going into that match even more favored. Then, that said, you know, we've got Mind Freak coming up later today, so who knows, maybe they can pull a rabbit out of the hat as well.
Well, we are going to go and have a look at our Macca's play of the game for the series between the Sydney Drop Bears and Legacy Esports.
So we are going on to Hollywood here, where we see Chrono Dota collapsing on the Legacy team here, burying Thunder Kitty as he gets into that room. Another one onto Sleep Easy, just complete and utter disruption here. I mean, he may as well have got that kill onto Cinderella as well. This was a classic Winston Primal 3K, just splitting the team up entirely. It was like it's like a compass kind of, you know, just like let's get a north out there, a west, a south, and an east as well, and then just let the rest of the team deal with that. Fantastic work from Chrono Dota, who we have pointed out is a pretty inspiring Winston player. I'm
not going to lie. I mean, that sort of series, there wasn't really a moment that stood out and was like, yep, that's Macca's play of the game. That was fine. Don't get me wrong. But you got to, when we were like,
let him have his moments.
I was just thinking to myself, hang on, we got Macca's play of the game coming up. And I was like, well, what stood out?
What could it be? I mean, the Huss Deadeye was pretty good.
I was actually going to say that
well,
because it was a very, not necessarily the fact that he got the kill, it was the moment of that fight that got them the kill. The fact that
the coordination, and we saw that all series long between CKM and Huss, you know, coordinating very clearly those players. I think those are the guys that are sitting there together, right? These two guys working at the High Performance Center at the SCG, so they're right there next to each other. They can just give them the side eye, give them the wink, be like, "You ready?" Bam, 4K with the Deadeye. That's the kind of things they can set up over there. And I think the fact that they've got that stable base to be playing and practicing in is just showing in how solid, both mentally and in the game, these guys are.
Rightio. Well, we are going to go to a break. Of course, it was 4-0 to Sydney Drop Bears. No surprises there. But when we come back from the break, it's going to be Atletico versus Kraken.